Hey guys, it's Roderick. We're here with another review of The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 13, Episode 5, Driving Miss Crazy. Okay, so let's get into it. I have to say, I am really enjoying this season of The Real Housewives of New Jersey. Like, everyone is really stepping up their game, from talent to production to direction to editing. They are really telling a very cohesive story, and I'm really getting the sense that this is kind of the passing of the torch, the kind of transitional season, right? Because I would not be surprised if this is Teresa's last season, but there are a lot of indications where we're seeing a lot of character arcs and we're seeing some character development for the good, for the worse. But this is what really kind of reality television is supposed to be, and I'm really getting everything I need to get from this season of Real Housewives of New Jersey. I know I'm 5 episodes in, I don't want to jinx it, and there definitely are some soft spots. There definitely are some things that I think that they could definitely tighten up a little bit, but for the most part, from a storytelling standpoint, from a filmmaking standpoint, from a narrative standpoint, from a directing standpoint, from an editing standpoint, they're hitting the marks for the most part with this season. So, okay, so we start off, again, like a little teaser where everyone's doing, Marge is trying to get into her clothes, whatever. We get to Danielle, who again, she is giving us pretty much the prototypical way of how to enter into this reality television world, right? She's keeping her mind open. She's coming forward with a lot of her authentic personality, and she's bringing the good. So she's getting ready for the birthday party for her daughter, Valentina Lauren, whichever it is. And she's like practicing her interests, whatever. All great, all good, loving this, whatever. Now we get to Rachel Fuda, which again, who I'm also loving. And they're at their beach house. She's with her stepson. She's like, I'm watching you. I don't need no 15-year-old getting drunk at the Jersey Shore. I'm loving the relationship with Rachel Fuda and her stepson, with her husband. Her mom and dad show up. The grandmother shows up. And I don't like old people generally, but the grandmother is giving me cantankerous old teas. And I think that that's what we need. Like, I don't know if you ever watched The Real Housewives of Dallas, which I really liked that show for the most part until it got very problematic. But we need a Mama D type of character in The Real Housewives of New Jersey, because I feel like that would solve a lot of these problems or maybe exacerbate them. Either way, but the grandmother was just giving me life because she was old or whatever, and the whole thing, like her turn up her hearing aid. I just really like that. So give us more of the grandmother or whatever. And also one of the things, and as far as storytelling goes, one of the things they did in this scene with Rachel Fuda is they had Rachel Fuda's brother showing up. So what the editors and directors and writers are doing in the show is, instead of just constantly giving us Battle of the Gorgas, they're giving us, here's what a normal brother and sister relationship look like. And here's Battle of the Gorgas, right? So I really like that. I really enjoy that. Plus, they know that in telling these stories and people being on for seasons, this relationship may not be as good as it is when we first meet them. So they're getting all the coverage, all the footage. So then if something does happen with Rachel and her brother, they can be like, well, this is what it used to be, right? So again, it's as from a storytelling standpoint, if you watch my reviews of like The Handmaid's Tales, we talk about foils. Foils are people or characters that are placed in close proximity to each other who are shown to be opposites, right? And so what the editors are doing are looking for and showing us foils to the Battle of the Gorgas, right? So that we're not constantly seeing this highly dysfunctional brother-sister relationship. We're actually seeing what a more functional brother-sister relationship is. But the downside is that nothing lasts forever, right? But for this point, loving Fuda, loving it, okay? Now we get Teresa, Mia, and Gia, they're veil shopping, right? So so obviously Bravo's like, we ain't paying for no wedding with no spoilers, so we ain't showing you the dress, so you can go veil shopping with your daughters, which was fine, right? So I was just like, oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I skipped a scene, which makes this important. Let me go back. Melissa and Antonia driving lessons. Basically, she's giving driving lessons. I remember doing driver's lessons with my mother. I know how nerve-wracking it is. The most important part of that Melissa Antonia scene, in contrast to this coming up scene with Teresa and her daughters, is Melissa lets her daughter know whatever happens with the adults, you and your cousins need to be close. And that is where I give Melissa 1,000 points for, because that is what I've been saying week after week. That the adults can, hawk their relationships for the sake of reality television, but for the sake of the children and the cousins, their relationship needs to be strong. And Antonio's like, yeah, we text all the time. We don't really get involved in this. And I really, really, really appreciate that. And that makes me feel better with this Kabuki theater, Battle of the Gorgas, whatever we got going on, that the children are still going to have a strong relationship with each other, regardless of what happens with the adults or whatever like that, right? So now we go back to Teresa. She's with her children. She's veil shopping in the city. And unlike Melissa, who keeps her children out of the mess, Teresa likes putting her children in the mess, right? So we find out some very interesting points that was not made clear. So Gia first lets slip that prior to Louis arriving on the scene with Teresa and Louis getting together, that everything was fine with Joe and Melissa. They were hanging out at the shore house. They saw them all the time. This is from what Gia says, right? Then Gia says, yeah, mom was like 2 minutes away from asking him to walk him down the aisles. Because Teresa's had this very emotional scene about talking about her parents. She's getting this, the phrase that's on their mausoleum on her veil. And the elephant in the room is like, why isn't Joe walking you down the aisle? We don't know that. All we know is that Teresa was about to ask him, and then Teresa decided not to ask him. We don't know what happened in between. They're not saying what it is. If y'all who be on the blogs and Twitter detectives know what the answer is, drop down in the comments, right? And again, as much as I don't like the children being the mess, I do believe that children are the best barometers of truth of what's going on in this situation, because they have, even though they may have an alliance or an allegiance to stand with their mother, Teresa's children are so stay in grown folks' business so much, they have no problem getting Teresa together when she's wrong, right? So again, I still am thinking, I'm still going to side that nobody's perfect in this situation, and definitely there have been mess on both sides, because the children, if Teresa was fully in the wrong, her children would have long since let it slip, even if she didn't want it to on camera, right? So this still has been, again, messed by everybody anyway. So anyway, now we get to Melissa and Jen's lunch with Jen Aiden. Now, Jen Aiden, as I've said for weeks after weeks, is trying to be the Hermione Granger, the A student from Teresa Giudice's, reality television book, right? Teresa is definitely taking Jen under her shoulder in the off season, and really told her, look, girl, I ain't always going to be here stirring no mess. My table flipping days are over. You bitches need to come to work, and you bitches need to come to do something, because I'm not going to always be the one stirring all this shit, because my husband, quite frankly, thinks all this is distasteful, but if they're paying for the wedding, he can put on a good face anyway, right? So Jennifer Aiden is really doing her part as far as the cast-wise to make sure she earns her spot, and she wants to take that Teresa place. She wants to be that heir apparent to Teresa on the show whenever Teresa decides to leave. And there's nothing wrong with that, whatever, right? Like, because especially if your marriage is not going well and you need to have some money, like this is a good way for you to stockpile, stack your coins. Remember Sharon Stone from Casino, he gives you 100, you spend 10, 90 in the bag. I really hope that that's what Jennifer Aiden's what she's doing with this whole situation, right? Not like I'm wishing anything bad on her marriage, but she needs to stay on this show so she can get her coins together, so that then when she decides to, leave her husband or whatever happens, or he decides to leave her because he's tired of her bullshit, she has some coins stacked so that way she can move whatever. So she's having lunch with Melissa, and I don't know if you look at the cast members, was Melissa the best person for her to have this conversation with? Yes, right? Her and Dolores are on the outs. Her and Margaret are always tenuous. You got two new chicks. Fessler is a friend of the show. Jackie's friend of the show, right? So, and she's already burned that bridge with Fessler. So there's no way for Jennifer to kind of have this conversation where she's trying to kind of expose Margaret as this evil villain, right? Like, that's the kind of like narrative that Jennifer Aiden wants to push, that Marge is like this really evil, that Marge is going to be the bad guy for this season, and it's just not showing up on paper because Marge just gives what Marge gives every season, right? Don't come for me unless I come for you. Keep my name out your motherfucking mouth and stay consistent. All the traits I like in a person, right? Don't fuck with me unless I fuck with you. Keep my name out your mouth and be the same person that I left you with, right? So I don't know. So this scene kind of looks very kind of overproduced in the fact of what's the point of the scene? Like, what are they trying to drive home? But what you realize is, in looking at the entire episode, it sets up the fight between Marge and Jennifer later on in the episode, right? Because the fact is, as we discussed last season, Jennifer Aiden going around trying to corral people on her side out of Teresa's playbook from the battle of the Manzos is good, but the fact is that she doesn't have enough terror on her side, and the stakes aren't high enough for her to really sway the girls to really be on her side. So she just comes off looking messy and petulant, right? As opposed to like there's an impending, whatever going on with her and Marge. Anyway, come to find out, Jennifer says that Marge just kept telling Melissa that she needs to leave Joe and that you could be with this ball player. Now, once again, we see that this may be an Easter egg for something that maybe happens later on in the episode with allegations of Melissa cheating on Joe. We don't know, right? Excuse me. But we know that these are all, no one wastes any footage on this show. So they're like, if we pay for y'all motherfucking lunch, we gonna get something out of this shit. So we see that Jennifer's like stirring the pot. Now we get to Jennifer Fessler's brunch, right? Excuse me. And she's doing a Southern themed brunch. So whenever white people do Southern theme, I literally hold my breath. And I was like, and it looked like a good Southern themed brunch. Crab cake hush puppies, fried chicken and waffles, little mini biscuit sliders, all cute, whatever, very, Southern-esque, I get it, but I'd rather 10 points to Jen Fessler for going this route than some Paula Deen with people handing out looking like you're from 12 Oaks with slave things. So I have no problems with that. And the thing is with Fessler, I like Jen Fessler because she's really giving me Eileen Davidson tease, which I really do believe is the future of reality television, especially this franchise, where you have fully formed, emotionally intelligent people who are not caricatures of their region and who are just really kind of able to assess the situation for what it is, not for the sake of television, right? Which is why I think Fessler plays a really good role as friend of the show. I think that she should just stay friend of the show and don't try to be elevated as a cast member, right? I think that once you get elevated as a cast member, there's this undue pressure and burden for you to constantly produce conflict after conflict after conflict and produce this stuff. As a Jen Fessler could just be like a great friend of the show who shows up and be like, yeah, bitch, you doing too much. Jana, whatever. So I'm really liking the role that Jen Fessler plays, compared to Jackie, who just kind of shows up and eat people's foods and throws shade the entire time. Like, Jackie, you ain't doing nothing this season and say you want to get your spot back. Like, Fessler has moved up higher than Jackie to get whatever extra spot there is, right? Anyway, so the girls, everybody shows up. Dolores shows up. I like I said in my primer, I really wanted to not like Dolores this season because she had just really put me through with the other seasons. But Dolores is just giving me everything I need this season. Unbothered, hot man, doing whatever she wants to do, titties out, just showing up, and just making sure the bitches know every time she shows up, if you don't want any, don't start any, right? And I just enjoy that every time because that is the energy that Dolores is showing up with every time. Like, I'll do my part, I earn my check, but any strays that come my way, I will light y'all up anyway. And she just sits there or whatever. So, and I really didn't like Dolores' point when they were talking about Danielle and her brother about like, is this what we're getting to now? Like, siblings aren't talking to each other over Instagram. So let's talk about Danielle and her brother thing real quick, because I find this interesting. Like, the show keeps alluding to this, and they want to kind of cast it as kind of either the progenitor of what Teresa and Joe may have been or what the final destination is. Stop talking about it and show us. Like, this is a soft spot in the show, right? So either get Danielle's brother on the show us some attempt to reconcile, even if it fails, or show us a reconciliation, right? So you probably say, the brother probably says he doesn't want to be on the show. He doesn't want to have anything to do with her. But this is also the network that had Kenya Moore go to her mother's house and her mother not answer the door. So I'd rather show us Danielle going to her brother's house and the brother being like, get the fuck off my property. I don't want no cameras here. I'll never talk to you again. Bop, 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 boop. Show us some movement in this relationship as opposed to keep talking about it, right? They're not showing us anything. So maybe again, we've 5 episodes. We probably got 8 more to go or whatever like that. We got a few more, but I mean, we've been alluding into it, talking about it. I need to see some visuals with this storyline, right? Otherwise, stop talking about it. Girls show up, everyone's having drinks, and then Jennifer Aiden shows up, right? And automatically it's like, and you could totally tell, like, the whole temperature just changed. Now, what I love about this is Fessler's intent. So I kind of feel bad for Jen Fessler because, like, she wanted this brunch to be like an anti-Teresa's housewarming. Like, this is where grown people get together and brunch. But Bravo's like, bitch, we ain't paying for no chef and no fried chicken croquettes and all this shit happening, and we don't get our money's worth. So they're like, oh, don't worry about it. It'll be nice. It'll be calm. And text them bitches and be like, make sure at 7:02, at 3:05, you bring up this, and this. And Fessler's all thinking she's hosting some hoity-toity brunch, and she don't know these bitches will show their bare ass at the fucking zoo next to the baboons or whatever like that. So I kind of feel bad because they really gooped her. I'm sure she was like, I don't want this to be no drama. I want this to be no nice. Producers are like, oh girl, it'll be fine. We had Teresa's thing last week. This will be a nice change of pace, something whatever. Key, and text them bitches and say, make sure you show your ass because that chicken ain't paying for itself. And that's exactly what they did. And they showed their whole ass at this brunch. If that was me and I was sitting at that brunch and somebody who was close to me was showing out the way Margaret and Jen showed out, I would have grabbed them and said, we're going to fuck home. Right? Like, I would have been like, we're leaving. Once the first low blow hit, I would have been like, shut your mouth, we're going home, right? But recognize again, these ladies are paid by appearance, right? So you can't leave too early into the scene, right? And let's talk about this scene, because you know how New Jersey is very infamous for having those parties that start at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that don't end till sundown, and you can see the whole evening change. So this scene must have really popped off because the sun was still pretty much in the same proximity where Teresa was when they left. Because remember, Teresa was sitting in the sun. So you can always tell by scenes where the sun is. Is the sun up? Is the sun down? Has the sun shifted? Has the sun moved? Whatever like that. Because it was a daylight scene, so you don't need you don't need the lights as you need for whatever. So they must have really jumped in and went going. Because the scene probably went for like 7-8 minutes edited as we watched it. So this must have gone on for 20-30 minutes at the most, right? And you know what? So here's the thing with Jen and Marge, right? Because again, there are faults on both sides. Jennifer Aiden is contributing her drama to the show, right? Mind you, Teresa was quiet. She did step in and try to stop Jen when she got really angry. But everybody needs to do their part to bring drama on the show or bring conflict on the show. And that is an unfortunate, sad reality of the way their compensation is packed and the way in which this series is edited and done, right? So Jennifer Aiden is bringing her drama to the show. The problem is that her problem with Marge, it seems ridiculous, right? Because if you either make up with a chick and say we made up and move on, or say, you know what, I don't fuck with you and I'm gonna keep my foot in your neck every time I see you. Right? Because that's what Dolores was saying in her confessional. I'd rather you just start hitting each other than screaming at each other. Like, if Jennifer Aiden does not want to fuck with Marge, just be like, I don't, you know what? I take that back. That apology was false. I'm just not going to fuck with you. And every time I see you, I'm going to keep my foot in your neck, right? That is a better option than Jennifer Aiden, like, constantly going for Marge, apologizing, and trying to use her Fruit Loop logic as to why going to people and telling people under the guise of, here's a history of our relationship, right, is not shit talking someone, right? Because everybody knows that everyone who's been on this show has watched the old seasons, right? They know the history of the relationship because they've all watched the show, right? They would not be on the show if they have not seen the show. Nobody who is on the show has not seen any previous episodes. So that's really a false logic that's used by Jennifer Aiden, talking about, I'm giving you the history of our relationship. Helen Keller knows the history of the relationship. Everybody knows what the history of the relationship is. She's trying to marshal people on her side against Marge, right? So Jennifer Aiden either needs to be clear about what her relationship with this Marge, either dead it or move forward, right? Or just be like, well, I don't fuck with you. Marge is a little bit more precarious, right? And you know what? I like Marge. She's not one of my favorites, but I do enjoy her. The problem is with Marge is she doesn't have any storyline unless it's her conflict with Jennifer Aiden. Right? Because in the real world, she would just ignore Jennifer Aiden or have the conversation with, bitch, keep my name out your motherfucking mouth, right? But this conflict with Jennifer Aiden keeps Marge present. She's in all the scenes. Everything seems to happen. And we're all going. But it just seems to be, once again, a very supercilious conflict, right? Because in the real world, you would just not fuck with each other or just have the conversation of don't do whatever. But I really kind of sense that, Marge is really kind of, putting 20 on 10 with this relationship, with this conflict, because it keeps, her going and she doesn't have to do any extra work, right? Aiden's bringing the drama and, because Jennifer's actually doing Marge a favor, right? In Jennifer's way of kind of being the Gretchen Wieners, trying to be the new Regina George, she's bringing this conflict to Marge, right? She's not going to start with Melissa. Melissa has a conflict with Teresa. Two new chicks, she doesn't really know anything about them, right? So who else is she going to start this conflict with? She tried with Dolores, and Dolores let her know very quickly, you don't want none of this, right? Because I don't play this, because I will dead this so quick and buried. They'll have roses and rosaries all over your grave when I'm done with you. So that's why she's moved on to Marge, because this Dolores thing ain't going to work, because Dolores ain't here for the BS, right? So, it's a very symbiotic relationship. Kudos to Fessler being like, I got neighbors, I ain't having all this shit in my house, and she does something that we have very seldom seen a Housewives done. She told Jennifer Aiden to get the fuck out of her house, right? Which I was 1,000% with. Notice Teresa goes with her surprise pupil with her, right? And they go out and whatever. And Teresa's right. Like, why are you, even worried about what Marge says and whatever? Because hit dogs holler, right? And there were a lot of stones that were thrown. They went very under the belt. You could tell from the reaction of the ladies that they were uncomfortable, that I want Bravo to show the full footage of this fight, right? Because the fact is they said some very, very nasty things to each other, because Marge was visibly and authentically mad at the things that Jennifer Aiden said. And I think Bravo edited a lot of that out for the sake of television, the children, trying to get people a good edit, whatever. I want to see the full footage for this fight, because they really hit some buttons and went below the belt. So luckily, Fess was like, y'all got me fucked up right here, and right here, and right here, if y'all think y'all gonna show your ass and waste my good fried chicken and all this shit. Fessler girl, keep inviting them. Just don't let Bravo goop you anymore. Don't be spending a whole bunch of money on shit. Give them bitches tacos and Kool-Aid and let them fight, and you sit in the back and you eat it. Don't be doing all that for them the next time. I know you're trying to do a good, make your good showing at your good house or whatever, but don't be wasting your good chicken on these bitches, because they will disappoint you every motherfucking time. Because if they can show their ass, they will show their ass. Okay. Valentina's birthday party. Love this. Danielle really does have a knack for throwing parties. I do have to say that. This party was styled impeccably, top to bottom. Her children really seemed to enjoy it. Inviting other people with children. I get inviting Louis and Teresa, whatever. Honor is due. You got to invite her. But the party looked good. But the most thing I want to talk about is what Jennifer Aiden said. So Jennifer Aiden and Rachel Duda are talking, and Teresa's like, oh, you're sneaky. You threw me under the bus. Girl, quit being brand new. Jennifer Aiden is getting her money every motherfucking scene. Notice, she has not, the only scenes where there's anything going on, she's there in every scene. She is getting her money this entire season. But she says something that's very telling, right? She goes, I react off other people's actions, right? Now, if we go back to last episode, when people were with the whole discussion about her being self-reflective is, you can't be self-reflective and react off other people's actions. Those two don't go against. So the problem is that we know that she's not self-reflective, that all she does is react off of other people's actions. She reacts, Marge cheats on her husband with her current husband, and she calls her a cheater. She reacts after that because she's been cheated upon. She goes in on Marge. So it's the same thing. So that is literally the crux of Jennifer's problem. She reacts off other people's actions and does not take a beat to think, what is really going on here? Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe this isn't about that person. Maybe this is about me. The essence of self-reflection. But there we go, right? So then, if that was not enough of the goop of what the fuck is going on with this show, we get the funniest thing ever. So Teresa, in her effort to keep the battery packed and Jennifer Aydin's back again, is talking to Jennifer Aydin and talking to her about, telling people's history isn't that well. And, I like Mars, but she does have a pattern in history. And they're trying to justify this kind of like historical narrative, of telling people about this to say that people's past actions are indicative of their future actions. If that's the case, then nobody would fuck with Teresa or Jennifer Aydin based upon their history and their past actions, right? So let's be clear. If Melissa went to the girls and were like, I know y'all knew, but this is the thing going on with Teresa. This is the thing going on with Jennifer Aydin. This is our history, because we saw footage of Jennifer Aydin and Melissa going at it. And if Melissa went to the new girls that did this, they would be hell to pay. If Marge did that, there would be hell to pay. So miss me with this whole thing of giving people historical perspectives is just a sneaky, low-down way of you trying to talk trash about someone and wrap it in a historical perspective. And if that's the case, nobody will fuck with Teresa or Jennifer Aydin because their history has been shown that they are untrustworthy, unstable, literally explosive, and delusional. So, what do we got there? Anyway, I have enjoyed this episode. I hope it keeps coming. Like I said, they're hitting all the marks, some soft spots, but this season's giving me what I need to give. This is giving me what I need. So anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.